Today's February 9th, 2026. I felt like I had a boot in my chest a couple days ago. Now, it's so much worse. And, so, this is my confession. I believe I can see right through Donald Trump. I believe I can see right into him. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he's our president. And he is taking us to World War III. This is not an exaggeration. Now, they are self-identifying themselves, this administration, from the top on down, as the top predator. Okay, like in the law of the jungle, you have predatory animals, and then you have other animals that are not predators. They actually eat plants. Okay, like deer, for example. Other certain animals are predators, and there's like a predator at the top of the food chain, and I'm not sure exactly what predator that is. It could be like maybe could be the lion. Might be the top predator. I forget what the name. There's a name that they have for this. So it's like the master predator. You know, it's like the king of the predators. Okay, it's like the toughest animal that can whip any other animal. And they're at the top of the food chain. And this is how this administration is identifying itself. Look, I didn't even have to watch any of these right here, but look. Alright. I don't know. Alright. So, you know what's going on is so corrupt and perverse. Part of Maduro's army, part of his regime, were bought off by the CIA. They gave him up because they felt it would be in their benefit in some way. And that was the agreement the United States had with them. And look, man, just because they got an agreement with the United States don't mean that they ain't having agreements with other people. For one thing. And if we think that we know everything, look, I don't want to engage in the art of war. Actually, I don't want to engage in the art of war. I don't want to engage in war and make my mind think in terms of the tactics and the mechanisms and the cunning of war. But I'm just going to tell you, I see into Donald Trump, all right? And he is a fraud. He's a rapist. He is a rapist, okay? Look, he has been convicted of fingering a woman and saying that that's not rape because he didn't use his penis. It's assault. You can justly call it, or he's a rapist. And he probably has raped people. Look, they got pictures of him with 14-year-old girls hanging around his neck. Okay. So he's got the mind of a rapist. And he's a fraud. He's always been a fraud. To say that he's a bully is about the nicest thing that you could say about him. And to say that he doesn't care about anybody but himself and staying in power, okay? And he don't want there to be any midterm elections. So before there's a midterm election, we'll probably, if he has his way, we'll be in war, okay? And he's pushing hard. And there are war hawks that want to go to war. But I think they're stupid. And that look, they're stupid on two levels, okay? Because they break the law of Sun Tzu for one thing. Because they're stupid. This is needless war that the United States is pushing for. It's needless war. That is the first break in the actual practice of Sun Tzu. So number one is we don't need to go to war. And number two is that the tacticianers are stupid. Look, that's why this one right here says destined to fail. Hey? Destined to fail. You know why? Because they were all drunk on power. They were drunk on power. They were drunk. And that's not the extent of their stupidity. It's because even if they're drunk on power, they still can't even think right. Look, I've been drunk in my life. In fact, I have been drugged. Okay? And I can still, even at that level, all right, have some kind of bearing and know that, okay, at least my brain can actually know that I'm screwed up, that I can't talk right, that I can't see right, that I can't stand, that I can't walk. At least my brain could know that. But these guys are so deluded that they're stupid. They're stupid. And they're going to kill us all. And Donald Trump doesn't care about anybody. It's just a reality television show for him. Look, he's building his own bunker. Because he knows that there's going to be terror in the streets. That America is going to burn. And then all the plutocrats are going to buy it up at the price of rubble. There's a lot of people that are going to die. And that's why, I'll tell you what, that's why I've been, okay, after I just said what I have to say, okay, sometimes it's good for me to hear what I have to say, because actually, now I don't actually feel like killing myself so much. Because I was thinking, okay, I already built myself a good place to drop from with a rope around my neck. But actually, I wouldn't drop, all right? Like, I think if I was going to kill myself this time, I would try to do it like Robin Williams did it, and kind of like sink. Make it nice and soft and just let it, and then just sink back into death. Because, the one time, man, when I really felt that I was going to have to suffer bad, I pushed a knife into my neck, tried to rip out that artery twice. And I'm not going to say I'm about there again, but I could say it. But what I am going to say is like, look, I wouldn't. All right. In this situation here, okay, I have to lend my hand to the resistance. I have to lend my hand to the fight. It's like Martin Luther King Jr., okay? And try to be nonviolent. I mean, a Second Amendment solution is really going to drive everybody to hell. But at least we might kill the bad guys. Make them suffer too, because if something don't happen, I tell you what, we're all going to be suffering and taking it right up the ass. This is where we are right now, my grandchildren. And, I'm just hoping that, like, I'm just saying, like, if I went dark or off grid, which it's not like I'm gonna do, but, like, I'm kind of feeling like it at some level. And anyway, I was just kind of thinking, I just don't really want to suffer anymore. I don't want to suffer anymore. But, I might have to. And so, Renee Nicole Good was shot in the face 3 times by the Trump regime 20 seconds after she told the ICE officer that she wasn't angry at him. She backed her car up, put it in drive for like a second, didn't even move. Turned the wheel and got shot in the face 3 times. And her last name was Good. G-O-O-D. That's... I don't want to sound irreverent, but if there ever was a synchronicity, this is one, all right? I'm not saying that in, like, the mind of God, that God would just, kill a person to prove a point because their last name was Good. I'm not saying that, but it does seem to be the case. Because obviously God is in control of everything, right? Well, God might be in control of everything, all right? But you know what? He's gonna let humanity suffer. Yeah, I say he, and I'm not even trying to mean he, okay? He, she, God is not male or female. So, I mean, it's just the language, okay? In fact, sometimes I don't even know if God even exists. Because, you know, I say to myself, you really gonna make me suffer some more? I mean, kind of the only reason I feel like I'm alive, all right, is just for me to say something to you and my grandchildren, because there ain't anybody else that I'm trying to influence or say anything to. So, because I'm about gone, and you're just getting started, all right? This is what I'm saying to you right now, reflecting on this time that we're in. I don't know what it's going to be like, and I hope to God that America can pull through this, and that the world can pull through this. That we got a murderer at the helm, and we got a person who was sacrificed to the whole ship for his vain ambition. Maybe his hatred and his fear. Because he's not only a fraud and a rapist, he's also a murderer. In fact, I read a report from a woman who said that he was on a ship when they killed her baby and threw it overboard. This is why they won't let out the Epstein files, because they don't want America to know the depths of depravity that the say rich and powerful. I mean, not everybody that's rich and powerful is depraved, but some of the rich and powerful people who are elite and feel entitled and feel like everybody else is a little piggy. Well, look, I don't think I'm going to be talking much more, because I ain't going to be like criticizing all constantly, okay? The news can do that, and I ain't got to say too much, but I'm just telling you, my grandchildren, this is where I feel right now. And like, if I ever did drop myself, from a tree or something, found hanging from a rope or something like that, don't hate me for it. Anyway, that's kind of like the way I feel, but actually, I do believe I have enough in me, okay, and I would die in battle. I would, okay, if it comes down to it. I will go to the front line, because that's the least I can do, and I don't have really a future anymore anyway. I mean, okay, and I still got strength enough to do it. I'm just saying, okay, if a revolution comes and we do have to, go for a Second Amendment solution, then I will join the fight. If the fight's gonna start, I'm gonna have to join it, because the thing is, it's either all or nothing. And that is the law of Sun Tzu, okay? You don't fight until you have to fight. But when you have to fight, you better be prepared to die. And I'm willing to actually sacrifice my life, so, somebody else don't have to, because I'm already at that age. All right, and then I would be happy that I could actually die for a cause that I believed in and not piss my life away in cowardice. So that's why I can't just drop myself from a tree right now, because I can't actually. Then I'm gonna stick around until. I'm just thinking actually right now, and I need to go ahead and quit this, all right? Because I'm not even actually saying anything. I'm sorry, I apologize for this. This is a very, very troubling time, okay? I've seen the footage of this woman get killed. All right. I've seen it many, many times. I've seen them like about 14 of them all together. I've seen them in slow motion. I've seen still frames. I'm not the only person who's saying that, we're heading right to World War III. And Trump is causing chaos in America. He's destroying America, okay? So, there is, a book in the Bible. The book of Revelations, the very last book, okay? And it talks about the tribulation. You can try to, shoot specifics and everything like that and say, well, the person has to come from here and has to meet this qualification, all that kind of bullshit, okay? No, you know what the story is? It's a metaphor. Metaphors don't have to be perfect and on point about every little tiny detail. We are in this metaphor, okay? When they say peace, and peace, then comes sudden destruction. And Trump, he wants to this lady from Venezuela who earned the Nobel Peace Prize by the last name of Machado. He wants her to give him the medal because he thinks he deserves it. He wants to be called the man of peace. He ain't the man of peace. He didn't stop 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 wars, whatever he says he stopped. He's producing war. This guy is such a con. He is such a fake. He is the opposite of what he says he is. The complete opposite. And the thing is, the really slap in the face is that all the Christians were deceived by him. But in this book, last book of the Bible, they call the church the great whore. And this has come to pass. The great whore put the Antichrist in office. And now we're heading for World War III. So, I, started my journal just for no particular reason, but I did start it at, I know one of my first ones was the I and the Thou, I got one journal entry that I did for you, my grandchildren, the I and the Thou. And then for a while I went through all the different kind of things that I think that you need to help yourself in life. And and the kind of thinking that you can use to equip your mind and to keep your sanity and to keep going in the right direction and be a positive force for good. And now everything has come full circle to the I and the Thou again, okay? Because, like I said in my last journal entry, I believe that that we are all one and we will all know what it's like to be the other. And just I also today was listening to a little bit of what's her name again? Rich Cox, something. I can't remember. She's a professor, something Richardson Cox or something. She's a professor and a historian and stuff, and she's got a podcast, and Heather Richardson's Cox maybe. But she was talking about the different phases in America where that were transformational, and you know, she mentioned a few of them, which I don't really want to go into right now. But I'm just to say that she said these were points when people said, when people then could see themselves in another, and that's how she phrased it. When people then could see themselves in another, you know, whether it be like a white person seeing themselves in a black person, or some tragedy, and they can feel how it would be. And you know, we're all going to get a rude awakening when we start seeing ourselves in another. And I don't know, I think it's we're going to be descending into the burning ring of fire. Comes from a Johnny Cash song. Going down, down, down through the burning ring of fire. And the flames going up and keep getting higher. And I think it is the beginning of the end. I don't know if if we're gonna blow ourselves up, or if we're probably America might have to be slain, and then the Americans are gonna suffer. We're gonna suffer real bad. We're gonna suffer real bad. And you know, you think of what it's like over there in Gaza. You look at it on the news. You know, you can see the activities in Gaza and all these towns blown up by bombs. People's limbs and kids' limbs and hands and arms being blown off, and the ones that actually survive. And then life is destroyed and their families destroyed. And then they suffer and maybe then starve to death or something, you know. The shrapnel will take a few days to kill them, but the infection will set in and they won't have any help. And some people like to see this happen, and they like to see them suffer and die. And it gives them a sense of power, and they have no remorse. They cannot see themselves in another. And so this is the state that we're in, you know. And you know, we're gonna suffer together, and we are gonna suffer for the sin of the politicians and the people running the show. Okay. And it could be that it could be that people like Donald Trump, you know, might survive and everybody else is going to perish. But nobody lives forever. And I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, there's going to be a reckoning. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there is going to be a reckoning. I'm not saying that these guys are going to get what is coming to them. I ain't saying that, because they might not. It's not a given. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen after we die. Nobody knows for sure. But you can believe it. And the way that I'm believing it is that, you know, I don't know how people get to be the way they are, but You know, something makes them like this. And if they're just born evil, if they're actually born that evil, then, well, and then God's got to take responsibility for that. And this is just one big study. All right. It's like, you know, injecting the rat with arsenic and seeing how long it can survive. And so I'm really sick to my stomach now. I mean, it's been good. This has been going on and on and on, and now I think it's coming. Now I think the show is actually beginning to start. And it says the 2026 plan. It's escalating now. Okay, that is Project 2026. That's put in writing. So we can't say that you didn't know. And it's the Republican Party's program. From the I think it's, I don't know, Federalist Society, or I can't remember, some organization. It's the ones, you know, that put all the judges in office and stuff like that. Look, they've been running this operation for a long time, okay? I don't know, I guess Democrats had their heads up their asses. But, I don't know, it's the way it is. A lot of good people have their heads up their asses. All the Christians had their heads up their asses. If they're actually worth their salt in Christianity, then they would have been. Then they would have known. They would have been able to tell that who the kind of person Donald Trump is. And this is why I'm a little bit angry, because the fact is, you know, I'm not trying to make myself any better than anybody else, okay? But he never conned me. And I can't believe so many people are still supporting him. And I don't really know what the count is right now. At least I know one person down the road took down their Trump sign. But I don't know how much we can do about this, and it may be the beginning of the end. And you know, I really don't want to talk about it anymore. In fact, I don't think I'm probably going to do any more journal entries, because I can't. I can't. So, all right. My grandchildren, I love you.